Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Sulky Show. Now, last week I was joined by Tier Prince's racing manager, Eric Witherspoon. We went through the season at Tier Prince, went on a little bit longer than anticipated because once we started, we couldn't stop. And I suspect that tonight could be the same, as I am joined by York's racing manager, Craig Stevenson. Craig, hello, how are you?
Sarah, hi, thanks. I'm good, but it can't go on as long because I'm going out to plough some snow soon. So we'll need to be under the hour, I think.
We'll have to keep it sharp. Yeah, so we have actually got a deadline to work to. You have to go to work, which is fair enough. I'll not keep you too long, I promise.
It's either that or people get stuck in the road.
After the trouble we've had in Scotland before with like motorways not getting ploughed and stuff like that and cleared, perhaps it's best that we pack you off out the road into your gritter. I did say off camera, John's away to his bed right now because he's out doing the same tonight. So I'll be thinking of you both when I, get in my nice warm bed and you two are out clearing the roads for everybody.
Yes, singing Christmas songs and clearing the roads.
Well, whilst you might be singing Christmas songs, I sincerely hope that John isn't, because that boy is completely tone deaf. I know you can at least carry a tune because I have heard you on the karaoke. Before we get started with the review of the York season, I think we should probably draw attention to, because if nobody is there's anybody left that hasn't mentioned it on Facebook to you, I'd just like to say congratulations for getting engaged on the weekend.
I know that. I was thinking about it for a while, then I must have two or three too many beers on Saturday, but then I got it announced on one of the music chats that were on it, so she was shocked.
I was shocked too, because I saw you that morning and there was no indication whatsoever that you were up to that night. So no, congratulations. Honestly, it's nice to find somebody that's willing to put up with you, really, when you think about it.
Exactly. Oh, they need a medal.
Well, Nicola certainly does, because you've drafted her in a couple of times to do York Sale in the office, and that is a pretty intense job for anybody to do. But for somebody that doesn't even have anything to do with racing, I just think she deserves a medal for that alone. So no, I'm very, very pleased for you guys. Great news. Obviously, next year, if you're going to get married next year, you're going to have to look at maybe a weekday or a Sunday and try and avoid any of the dates that you put in for York.
And we've got Winchesters during the week as well, so it's hectic next year. It won't be next year, maybe after that, but hopefully this COVID goes away and we can get racing more.
Yes, now that is the priority. Yes, let's keep on track here. It's just, I like wedding talk because I'm a woman who is getting married, so weddings are my thing.
When?
Well, I've got a date for next year. I'm sticking to it. It doesn't matter what the restrictions are. I'm getting married on the 22nd of May. So don't put a date in for York on the 22nd of May, because that is the day that John and I get married. So avoid that date, please. You're sitting there now thinking, yes, we've got a massive day planned for the 22nd of May.
I'm sitting here thinking I've not got a clue what's on that day, but John knows all the dates anyway. So
he knows that Applebee's the next weekend after that. So there was some thought put into this. Don't panic.
Keep it away from the sale.
Something. I will have to. Well, yeah, exactly. I tried to keep the sale away from the original date, but you wouldn't listen to me. But that panned out anyway. So yes, less wedding talk, more racing talk. We're here to look back through the 2020 season. Now, this probably, York before my time maybe was as busy as this, but this is, as far as I know, and my time in racing, this season was the busiest season at York. The number of meetings, it was almost every week. We started in June, we ran right through until the end of October. In a normal season, that amount of racing is going to be hard work, but obviously with the protocols the BHRC's had to put in, the whole COVID situation, everything that was going on, how much work was it for you just to get racing going to start with?
It was hectic. We were sitting there contemplating whether to race or not. Mick always said we'll keep the racing open as long as they're horses. So I sat one Sunday, and I'm not very good on computers. I sat for 10 or 12 hours and copied and pasted from the BHA protocols and the IHRA's ones, and tried to draw a protocol up and sent it around people to try and get a protocol ready so we could move forward with the race. And I contacted the police and the Harrogate Council, where we were helpful as long as we stuck to the guidelines, which we tried to do most of the year. It would be okay, which it worked out okay. But hectic, and I never thought we would have got racing. But I'm glad a lot of the trainers kept their horses in, because I think if we'd went another couple of weeks, I think we maybe not got a season. A lot of the 2-year-olds were getting kept in training, fair enough, because they need to get educated for 3. But there were a lot of handicap horses and grass circuit horses that were put away. So, but we got a good season for best season we've had at York for a while. 16 race meetings, 3 qualifying meetings. Busy weeks.
I know, when you think about it, when you think back to the spring and people not knowing if racing was going to go ahead, the work that went into getting York going. You were the first track to be able to stage qualifiers, and I was there at those qualifying days through June. They were some of the longest days. The number of qualifiers, the sheer number of horses that were there, it was constant. It was just qualifier after qualifier. And I thought at that point then, because the number of horses has been kept in training and people were willing to come to York, because they were coming from all over the place. There was a lot of Scottish trainers coming down, there was Welsh trainers coming up, and then your nucleus of English trainers as well in that area. I was quite confident at the start of the season that we were going to get some good race meetings coming up after that. But I don't think even at that point, I imagined that we were going to have the season at York that we did have, because, looking back at it now, it was a fantastic season. There was something for everybody. You go meeting by meeting, you look at the horses that were catered for, the types of races that were run. It was a really, really well done job by you and everybody else at York to actually get that ahead in the first place. And it's, I don't know, does it become a thing where, because you're racing every week, it becomes easier because you just go through the same motions every week? The race meeting finishes, you've got your entries open, you take entries, does it become easier as it goes week by week or not?
It is. It was hard because you're constantly. This year we were challenging. We were having to get deadlines for the bookmakers and things like that, and pay-per-view, and it was harder. But by the end of the season, I was in a rhythm, and I was managing to get 2 days off a week, 2 nights off with doing nothing. So because you're having to write reviews and anything for the bookmakers, a line for every single horse, put them into races, and try and please everybody. It was hard, but we got there in the end, and we'll see how many races we get next year. And I do enjoy it. See, when you come away from there and the racing's, they've been absolutely fantastic racing. You see a lot of these horses, a lot of the racing we had this year was very good standard. Seen track records broken a lot. See people, some owners who have paid a lot of money. I know they're having to wear masks and that, but they're getting to go and see their horse race and win. It makes it worth it.
Definitely, and obviously with York as well, we did race behind closed doors there the entire season. Unlike Tier Prince, where they were able to get crowds in, York was without crowds the entire time. That move to get the owners in, I think, made a big difference. Obviously, you're lacking the atmosphere a little bit on the bigger days with the bigger races, but like you say, people who paid the money, they were able to get into the races, they were able to watch their horses win. And I actually felt as the season was going along that people were really enjoying it. Although there was a small number there, we did have the bookmakers, so people could have a bet. Obviously, there weren't facilities like food and drink and things like that, but it still became a day out, and it was still enjoyable. And winning those races, probably when things are a little bit rubbish in the rest of the world, winning those races for people maybe meant a little bit more. It was kind of, it's not a glimmer of hope kind of thing, but it's just a nice thing to happen at the weekend if you've had a bit of a rubbish week working from home, or having to go here and do that, and the restrictions you're living under and that sort of thing. So it was from my personal perspective, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I always enjoy a day out of York anyway. I've always thought it's somewhere that I feel like I'm part of a team, and probably never more so than this year. I felt like we were working with a really, really good team of people behind the scenes, and I think we had a bit of a laugh along the way as well.
Yes, we're always talking during the racing to who's picking who's want to win, and when we're standing there to try to get our jobs done. We did have a good team. It's the first year Jason took over as the chief steward from Barry, and we got a lot of new members. Dawkin joined us. Dawkin was amazing. Dawkin and Darren were on the gate all year at the start, checking everybody's temperatures. Dawkin was off for a couple of weeks at the end there. He was in the hospital, but he's better now. Great. Everybody works in. We got the pay-per-view up and running, which at the start it was, yourself at the qualifying days, we were getting loads of people commenting, saying it's not working. And I got to the third qualifying day, and I said to Mick, I says, you either get somebody, obviously I'd spoke to these people before, and they weren't cheap. I said, you get somebody or we forget about it. I says, because every week you're getting maybe 20, 30 calls saying this has went down and that's went down. So we got Frank, and Frank's moved on and tried different things, and his quality, his recording was very, very good. I see he's taking on point-to-point at Annex in the next couple of weeks, so that they'll get his expertise as well. He's very, very good at what he does, and I was pleased with all that.
Oh no, definitely. I can remember now. I cast my mind back to it. I can remember the phone. My phone just would never stop because of what people could see on that live stream in the early days. It was mainly me standing in the winner's circle with a camera, and it was texts and Facebook messages and phone calls. I know Kirsty was the same up in the commentary box. You would have been the same. And the worst part was there was days when I was reading the messages on my phone and ignoring them because there was a qualifier happening and there was a race happening and I'm trying to take pictures. And then I was getting another message saying, I can see that you've looked at your phone. Why are you not replying to me? And I thought, this live stream is going to be the end of me, because not only now can people see what I'm up to in terms of ignoring them, they can also see what I'm up to when I'm doing my crazy little dances, wandering around, doing star jumps or whatever, shouting stuff up to Darren, having a laugh and a joke. So the live stream was a challenge for me on a personal level because I had to remember to behave myself in between races. I used to go hide. I used to go run up to see John at the bookies or whatever, just go stand somewhere that I knew I couldn't be seen because I thought I'm going to get caught one of these days doing something really stupid and never live it down. So, but no, it did. It when Frank got involved, certainly the quality of it by the finish was absolutely fantastic. It was like watching a proper show. I think it was the second weekend in September I went away. That was the one meeting I missed at York, and I actually paid the £10 to watch the live stream, and I was so impressed. And I actually watched it with my friend Lisa Farrelly, and she hadn't seen any of them all season. That was like the first time that she actually sat down and watched a race meeting on a live stream, and she couldn't believe the quality of what she was watching. She said that was like that was like putting ITV racing on basically on a Saturday afternoon and watching it, because the quality of what you were watching during the races, in between the replays, the interviews, it was absolutely brilliant. It was proper flagship kind of stuff. And like you say, Frank has gone to the point to points now, and he's going to hit the ground running basically with the point to points because he's tested out all the stuff he needs to test out with us at York. So it's good for him as well to get a little bit back off that outside of the sport as well. Looking back through the season then, I mean, I told you to do a bit of research. I've done no research because preparation is not my strong point. I like to wing it. Let's talk about some of your personal highlights, whatever they might be, whether it's the specific days that kind of stood out to you, or specific races, horses or connections. What kind of stood out for you through the 2020 season at York?
I've not put it in order. I went through and just out my memory. I've got all the cards in my bag here, and one of the first ones I put on there was I put the two of them next to each other. It's Catherine Lord winning on Taji. Put a photo on yesterday, winning for Kelly, and then I interviewed Kelly a few weeks later because I phoned Kelly. I said, Kelly, I want you to go on the trot, in the saddle and in the cart. She said, I've not been in the saddle for ages. I said, come on. She said, I've never drove a trotter. I said, well, you're doing one of them. So I interviewed Kelly and I said to Kelly, how did you think this season would go? She said, well, I never ever thought that my sister would win in my horse and I would win in a trotter. So that stood out to me this year. It was good to see. Catherine gave that Taz a great drive. The horse was desperately needing grass racing at the end, but tries his heart. It always has done for an old campaigner, and same with Kelly, old campaigner as well.
I particularly enjoyed yours and Kelly's interviews. I'll be honest, your interviewing style is brilliant because anybody that knows you particularly well, you just went really hard on them. And Kelly she was on the receiving end of some absolute pelters off you in those interviews, but it was enjoyable and she took it in good spirit that day. But no, you're right. The day she drove that trotter, she won on the trotter. Was it Vera de Regenne?
Yes.
There were weeks after that Kelly wasn't down to drive because obviously she's driven it in a ladies' race. And John kept saying to me, why are they not putting Kelly back on? Like, why would you not put Kelly back on the horse? Because she gave the horse such a fantastic drive in that ladies' race. And I think the two of them actually kind of got on really well. It was a decision after that never to let Kelly drive the horse again, unless Kelly said, no, do you know what, I'm going out with 100% strike rate on trotters, and that's me, I'm never driving one again. You'll maybe know better than me.
Yes, because Matty said to me, who do we get? I says, get Kelly. I said, she's as good as anybody. I said, right. And even down the back straight, I said, Kelly's not getting beat here because nothing could get near her, because Titi Fortuna was on one, I think, and she was coming there, and Vicky Gills galloped at the start and finished well. But Kelly just let it go, and we all know Vera de Regan just keeps on running on, so she gave it a good drive.
Definitely.
So staying on the trotters aspect, Ryan Asquith winning. I'm cheering going to the line. I know you would have liked that. Ryan, obviously, we've seen Ryan grow for coming with helping Joe, then driving in the qualifiers and driving in races. And how many races was he unlucky? He's getting to the front and just getting nabbed the horses. So to get a win was superb. Because I said to Ryan that day, I said, Ryan, why are you not driving another one? I said, is that not a better one? He says, no, I'll stick with this one.
He was. You're right. Ryan was genuinely one of my highlights of the full season at York. From those days in the qualifiers, and he sat his test alongside. There were quite a few of them actually that sat their test. I think Adam Jenkins was one. John Innes was another that sat his test. And there was a few of them that came in kind of through Joe and possibly Matty as well from my little northeast gang. But Ryan in particular, week on week, was getting closer and closer to the first win. There were a couple of times that you mentioned, and I think I wrote about it in my blog a couple of weeks ago. There was 2 meetings in August where he'd gone clear in front, and I thought, today's the day. You may well have been standing next to me when this was happening, because you and I seemed to find each other stood next to each other and trying to pick out a winner down the back straight. And on both occasions he got beaten. It was Universal Cat and Diamant de Gadrell that came and beat him both times. And I mean, when you consider the quality of those two horses, Beryl de Bercy possibly was just beaten by better horses really in those races. But the day that he won, I could just remember the noise that he was making coming down the home straight. Absolutely fantastic. I think I laughed. I think I was fairly close to tears. I get a bit emotional when people have their first wins. But I particularly enjoyed that. Ryan does love a photo as well, as I've noticed. He's leading. I mean, he's the first person. There were days when he was driving in the race, like him and Joe would both be driving in the race. And if Joe was coming back as the winner, Ryan would literally jump off his horse, throw the reins at somebody, and muscle his way in to lead Joe's horse back to the winner's circle to get in the photo. So it was nice to be able to get his photo that day with Beryl de Bercy as the actual winning driver for a change. But it was a nice story for him because he grew as a driver and he grew as a character as well. By the finish, I mean, he was getting a bit cheeky with me, having gone from not speaking to me at all. So maybe need to nip that in the bud. I don't want any cheek off you next year, Ryan.
Yes, it was a good all season. Like, I'm taking the swing from the Quinn Trotters there. They were a great competition between Joe and Matty all year. You kept on saying, I'm always going to Joe or Matty. Who's winning? They didn't know that they had 3-4 horses in races, and I think they were maybe 1 point in it by the end of the season. But it was fantastic. Then you've got Matty when he's done his leg in and he's driving down the home straight in his wee scooter. And then it runs out Barry on the way back.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I've got videos. I have got videos. And you know what? I dug them out last night and I was like, because I knew we were going to do this. And I thought, as a kind of preview for this on Facebook, I am going to go back through and post my favourite TikTok videos I made from York. And it is Matty coming down the home straight. I made 2 of them. There was like the gangster music and there was the Benny Hill music.
Benny Hill you sent me.
And I've also got the video of Marcia sent me of Mick pushing him off the track. And I watched him last night. I was in absolute tears. I was like, what a laugh Matty gave me in that scooter. It was the most ridiculous. First of all, he needed off-road tyres for it. Secondly, I think, no offence, Matty, you probably needed a bigger engine on your scooter. That was not an appropriate scooter for a man of Matty's stature. No. But no, do you know what? I actually, every week when I got to York, usually pretty tight on time because I'm not a great timekeeper. Well, the man I live with isn't. The first thing I used to do was go straight up to the paddock, hand out prize money. And I think the first few weeks, I used to go up where the cars park into the paddock that way and maybe come back down through the stables where the ladlers were. But I noticed kind of middle of the season and then for the remainder of the season right to the end, I was going straight up through what I called like the trotter aisle, which is, you know, the Alleys and then the Quins. Dave Taff used to be stabled up there as well. But I used to make a beeline when I got to York to go straight up to that corner, because I knew as soon as I got there, I was going to get some sort of nonsense off Matty and Joe. Usually Matty standing around shouting orders at people, you know, and just random harness being thrown on horses, and horses getting pulled out of this stable and that stable, and, you know, somebody desperately trying to find the right cart to put on. Little John Nicholson standing there just waiting for somebody to pass him a horse to go warm up. It was absolute chaos, but it was fantastic. And I know Heidi Sowerby said to me, she was stabled across like the other side, the other aisle, basically, where the lady of the horses were, and she said sometimes she would find herself stopping doing what she was doing just to listen to Matty shouting like random orders at people. And she thought, you know, he sounded quite aggressive, but at the same time, like, he just burst out laughing at the end of it. And with an accent like he's got as well, it was very difficult to take him as being 100% serious. And I just thought that corner, no wonder Marcia always went to go sit up there with the numbers. It was just constant. It was constant chaos and fun and laughter. And I just don't think anybody truly knew what was going on. But between Joe and Matty, they had a really, really good season. And it was competitive. It was fun. It was fun competition.
Yes, yes. All the horses ran well all year, and taking it on that spin all year. I seen Alan Haythorne drove these trotters fantastic, and see the smile on Alan's face when he's coming back with them was unbelievable. I've never seen, he's not smiled like that for years, and it was very, very good to see. Tell what, how many horses did you jump on first time and win with the trotters was unbelievable. The man's got great hands.
He definitely, for anybody that had kind of maybe thought that age was maybe against Alan and you need to look at like younger generation of drivers, I think those drives he gave those trotters at York really reminded people that the skill stays with people. You know, it's maybe he's not driven as much the last couple of seasons within his own stable because James and Richard are taking more of those drives, but he is such a gifted driver, you know. And you say first time out on some of those horses, just you could see that immediate improvement in the way they were racing, and the horses were gaining confidence. As you said, he was really enjoying himself. And I thought about this, and I've looked back at like some of my photos. And girls, if you're watching this, find yourself a man that looks at you the way that Joe Quinn looks at Alan Haythornthwaite, because that to me was just true love. It was the bromance of the season, quite frankly. The two of those, Joe used to just look at Alan like he was in love with him. It was brilliant.
Yes, and you see the photo you've got of them cuddling each other on the way back up the home straight was perfect.
It just summed it up. It completely summed it up. They became a team that you never would have anticipated at the start of the season. You never would have put those two together as a force to be reckoned with. That is basically what they became.
Well, I was getting phone calls on a Monday or a Tuesday of Joe and Matty. I says, who's driving what? And 1 week they're saying, "Oh, he's took Alan this week, and I've took Alan," and it's something like that. He's nobody making decisions. They said, "Oh, it's who gets it to him first."
Basically, it was becoming a fight over getting Alan to drive. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was looking back through photos, obviously to try and do this photo every day kind of thing through December, and I think probably one of Joe and Alan is probably going to make an appearance. It would probably make sense to do it within the next couple of days now that we've spoken about it on here. Just the two of them, it worked. It was a combination that worked, and I really look forward to seeing what happens to those next year as well, because I think if Joe keeps Alan driving for him, I mean, he needs to really, unless he gets some new young drivers coming through as well for the test the new year. But I mean, Matty's the same. Matty is seriously going to need to train some drivers up, because the number of trotters that they've got between them now, essentially just for the race.
One of the highlights for interviews, talking about interviews, was Charlie Bennett.
Yes.
Everybody loves Charlie when we're talking about Noreen. The horse won. Oh, Charlie was superb. We got him 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and I think Noreen was the one to kill him by the end of it.
I think Noreen was wanting to kill you by the end of it. It was you that kept suggesting that she should never come racing again. I could just picture her sitting at home watching it, absolutely cursing you and Charlie. That made it more fun for me, was just imagining Noreen's face at home. I know what she's like, because that woman, first of all, she loves a photo. I've seen her at York in previous seasons, and she'll turn up to come in the winner's circle for a photo, and I'm like, Noreen, you're nothing to do with these people. What's happening? She's like, oh, that horse's mother was Irish. That's not a connection. You don't even know the people. Noreen does love a winner's photo, and she didn't get through any of them. So I think you pointed out that Charlie was maybe luckier without her at the races. So yes, you wait till Noreen sees you.
that little connection there. You've got Noreen, Caroline, Elizabeth, Maggie Ferns. They were there nearly every week. They had horses connections. They were doing just like every week. Joe, Caroline said to me, "Do not mention my horse in the preview, because every time you mention a horse that runs rubbish." Joseph Ripley was that. Joseph Ripley, he was saying to me as well, "Please don't mention mine." Just like Joseph, every time you took a photo of him, it was one very.
He loves a photo, and he always said to me at the start of every meeting, "Make sure you get photos of me." So I'm right, okay, no problem. So that's me ready. I'm primed. I've got him lined up for the shot. Brilliant. He's 2 or 3 wide at the half or the mile, whatever the distance of the race is. This is great. And then I'm looking back through the photos after the race, and he's too busy getting the whip out. The first time he did it, I thought, "Oh, what is he doing?" And I told him, he was, "Oh, I never thought. Next time I'll do it down the back straight. It's fine." And do you know what? I caught him a second time doing it.
Right.
Honestly,
he just reaches for the whip out, and nicer man, you'll not meet Joseph.
and do you know what? There was a day he won, and his father couldn't come down to the winner's circle for the picture. And I went back up. I actually walked back up to the paddock and got pictures with him and his dad and the horse. Just because it was easy, because it's quite a long walk as well, down to the winner's circle from the paddock. So I went back up, and lovely family. Always been a lovely family, and you know what? I actually miss his son coming on the ponies as well, because some of those kids of the ponies are great, and Joseph's little boy is an absolute cracker with his pony. But no, he's good company, he's good fun, he's a good sport, but he needs to seriously deal with his whip removal tactics. And you know what? Actually, the first day he did it, I think we'd raced the week before without whips or something, and I wasn't aware that the following week they were racing with whips. So not only did I have this picture of him going to get his whip, I also panicked because I thought, has he done that to hide it, to get it into the race? He not realize he's going to get caught by the stewards for doing this? And you were like, "Oh, no, they race with whips now, it's fine." And I thought, well, maybe somebody should tell me, because this is the kind of stuff I panic about, thinking somebody I really like is going to get in a lot of trouble here. Yes. And on the subject of having to go up to take photos of Joseph and his father, another person I had to do a lot of walking for this year, Bobby Miller. I was thinking about this earlier. Saturdays at York, I think every week, I was somewhere between 12 and 15,000 steps on a Saturday, just purely from walking up and down that home straight, up to the paddock, out to the car park. And Bobby Miller in particular, because he obviously wasn't able to get down to the winner's circle. And I know at Corbywood in the past, we've taken horses round to his car to take photos. It kind of became a thing when Living Star was winning, that we had to take the horse back up the home straight, round towards the car, right out into the car park, really, and get a picture with Bobby so that he had something to kind of look back on. But that really did drive my step count up over the weeks.
Yes, fantastic to see Bobby. Bobby's been a great supporter. I've known Bobby for a little boy, and he's had a few horses. He's had loads of horses on his days, and he's got this one. And he told me, he says, people have been annoying him all year to try and buy it. He says, I don't need the money. He says, I enjoy watching my horse, and tell what, he's got a fantastic horse. Comes off a good mark next year. Oh, it'll take some beating in these early handicaps, Applebee's and things like that. Very good. Obviously, the year before they had to pay about 3 or 4 grand for an operation for it and everything. So great to see that, and they bet it every time. They always bet it, and they like a bet. And there's 2 or 3 of them come down in the car and enjoy their day out. Fantastic to see it. Like the support we got all year from all the Scottish, all the Welsh, even like Hamish and Bob come down about 4 or 5 weeks in a row, had 9s and 10s, shocking draws, then got a load of winners. They were good. Grant Cullen drove more winners at York than he drove at Corbywood. Yeah,
well, actually, I was thinking about this as well, was the kind of Scottish success at York. You mentioned Hamish and Bob there. I was thinking about it in terms of the fund, the bonus fund that Frank Hushker and a few of us kind of dealt with for the course of the season, and obviously Hamish paid into that, and there was rarely a week went by that Hamish didn't have a horse on and didn't take home, some of that prize money kind of fund, prize money, but from the boost sort of thing on it. He had a really good season there, and Kia had a good season as a trainer, but Grant had a particularly good season as a driver. I think that kind of the allegiance that he got there with Dave Taff that started to work as a partnership as well. And he got a couple of really kind of higher profile wins driving Dave Taft's horses. But obviously, Kia and Hamish regularly attended the track and regularly did well there. He's mentioned Grant, did do better than he did back in his home track at Corbywood.
That's obviously I travelled in with Grant and Willie sometimes, and Jack before he's in the car, and so we always talk here as we've done when we've travelled with you and John. Always talking. I'm saying, what kind of advice do you get off Dave? Well, he sometimes tells me things, and he just comes in and says, "Right, Rambo." He never calls him a name. He always calls him Rambo, and it's unbelievable. He says, "You win this week. You win.
That's
win this week."
So there were so many times that Grant was winning with Dave, like with Dave's horses, and I'd be looking for Dave to come down to do an interview or come back for the winner's photo, and I'd turn around and it was Kia leading the horse down, and then after Kia it just turned out to be Jack. Jack was just bringing the horses back for the photo, and I'm like, Dave's not even bothered about getting his photo taken anymore. I thought you were going to have to start interviewing your own son at one point, because he seemed to be doing more for the photos than Dave was.
Oh, Dave's some man. Even at you notice the start of the year, he was out warming all his horses up himself. He had the horses going good for a spell there. I think they went off the boil a little touchy, but he just does something with horses that is unbelievable. Like there, if we go to one of the Stagby Mares race, fantastic win for Lions Queen. She ran terrific all year. Superb. Grant drove her well. Just hung on. No doubt. I'm no doubt in my mind. Newtown Jody Starts it wins. The ground that made up was unbelievable. But can't take it away from Lions Queen. Showed the burst. And Dave said to me, "Doesn't matter where I draw, I'll win."
I was confident. Because I think after she won the final, Grant had said that Dave had told him after the previous week that, maybe Grant had mentioned that the previous week she wasn't back at 100%. She had a bit of a niggling problem. She hadn't been 100% the week before when she was beaten by Air Empress in a similar style of race where Empress had been parked. I think it was the week before. In the final, then she ran better for it, but you could see the progression with her during the season. She was really starting to step up in class. Her time was dropping every time she raced. And though that mare's series really was kind of bringing her on. And the final that day, obviously that was the particularly wet day we had. That was the one day we had without the start car. I can remember Rocker saying after, I think the mare's final was race 6. And I think Rocker came back round after race 4 and I think he was 2nd or 3rd in the race. And he just shouted over to the stewards, "We can't see, but this is starting to get dangerous." And I'm looking at him thinking, could you maybe not have waited until after race 6 to say that? I thought, I really want to get this mare's final over and done with, get that trophy out of my care and given to somebody else. And then if you're going to abandon because drivers are saying they can't see, after that point, I don't care. I'm done. Just get to race 6. I'm looking at it thinking, please be quiet, Rocker. Please don't say anymore. But as it turned out, we were able to keep going with the day. And, people got a lot of free mud packs, basically. Everyone's skin was a lot better at the end of that day.
Oh yes, it took a few weeks to get Mark Jones's eyes back. He only came up for one drive. Old Mambo just didn't like it, and it was just round at the back. But you should have seen the eyes in him. We only had two wet days. One was a qualifying day, and one was that race. And I think Hugh O'Neill was at both of them.
Yeah, no, he was, and I kept saying to him about this. Every time it rained, he was there. That qualifying day was absolutely horrific. I've never got so soaked in all my life, and I think I was stood with you and John, and I kept trying to run out from the grandstand to take photos, and you and John both saying, "What's the point? It's just a qualifier. Just stay inside." And I'm like, I'm not leaving one race out there. I was committed, and the photos turned out absolutely ridiculous. They looked awful, but I had to try and take pictures as proof of what was going on there because the weather was absolutely horrendous that day. But I mean, the full day that the mare's final, obviously the damage had been done the night before with the rain. The track itself was really wet come that morning. But even without a start car, we only had that one false start all day. I can't remember if it was 8 or 9 races we had that day. But we only had that one false start in the mare's final with Jody. The rest of the time the drivers certainly handled it fine, and people adapted to the situation. Definitely team effort.
Yes. So it was good. It was good. The Mare series has come on for strength to strength. Fantastic. You're talking about Air Empress was fantastic all year. Tough as all boots. It just keeps on. The harder it gets, the better it goes. It just the week before when it won the last heat, I think it was. That was a fantastic run. I actually thought it was a better run when it raced in the muck in the qualifying day. What a run that day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Every time she turned up at York, she ran particularly well. She'd had other runs. She ran a mares race at Corbywood and broke around the last two bends, which is uncharacteristic of her. And she also ran a mares race at Tier Prince and just couldn't get out. And I remember Hughie saying to me, he was like, I could not get a gap at all. And when the gap came, she really motored, but it was Newtown Jodie had flown the nest by that point, and she was just in a bunch finish, having found that room. But at York in particular, I thought Air Empress really, really performed. Even the days that she was beat, she was performing very, very well. She was rarely out of the kind of the mix in all the races, and she obviously won those the two legs of the Mares Series before coming second in the final. So it's good for people to travel all that way and kind of get a result from it. It keeps them coming back, and that was the case not just people in Scotland, but for trainers coming up from Wales as well.
yes. You had Di Cord, but he had one of his first successes. Michael O'Mahony drove it, and they kept on coming back. They came back regular. They even came back to the sale and bought at the sale. So exactly. I don't know.
He's keen. He'll be there next year.
Yes. It was a very good year. A couple of young horses to look out for. Who came through the ranks, maidens, and they went right into handicaps. You've got Laneside Logic was ultra impressive, and Tarawood Will. We watched that in qualifying day. It was fantastic. It had a few upsets the first couple of runs. Then they got its win done because it was passing by us after the race, and you could hear the noises for it. Yeah. So they had its win done, and that turned around. So these horses are very good horses to look forward to. Same with the Richies, they've got a nice horse, but won one of the finals later on.
He's king.
Yes, that's it. Some transformation looks, and I seen it run at Corbywood the back end of the year before. But looks $1 million and very well driven by James.
And definitely ran into a nice bit of form. I think he won the Sire Stakes 4-year-olds, a 2-horse race, but then went on after that then to win that on that particularly wet day, heat and final of the Smart Bookmakers.
Yes.
Faster than that day. He handled the conditions very well, handled the races very well as well. Certainly a horse to keep an eye out for. You're talking about young horses there. We've obviously mentioned a couple of maidens. We did have some stakes races at York this year as well.
Yes. Stakes racing was good. We had the IHRA juveniles was there this year. The first time we've had them, and they've asked us to take them again next year. Fantastic. We've seen a lot of different winners. We've seen Paul Johnson have his winner this year with Oakwood Coral. She was a bit in and out season. She was a bit grabby early on, but she just came on and won. She got beat the first time off the Reed's horse, John Wright's. Reed's Romance, is it? Yeah. That beat it quite easy in a 2-horse race. Then she just came and won later on. That was a nice performance. Went over to Ireland, but you also had the Mick Lord winning with Showtime, the Showtime horse. Hit came and beat Said to be seat kind of comfy. Then I think Mick's stable got a bit of virus, so they didn't run as well the rest of the time. Another really good performance, the one horse everybody's talked about. We watched it in the qualifiers, ran in every qualifier at York, as Oakwood Annabella won the heats of the juveniles and absolutely blew them away in Ireland in the finals. That's probably the best juvenile horse visually I've seen for ever. It's superb.
And obviously she took a 2-year-old filly's track record. I think, was it 2-year-old fillies or was it? I think it was the overall 2-year-old track record. Was it not a York? It was certainly a British record.
Yes, it was a British record. I'm sure it's a track record. But any records we've got to go to John. John's got every record in his head.
I can remember Darren shouting down to me, "What is it?" And I've got John over waving his arms and trying to tell me what the record is. I'm trying to shout it up to Darren. Darren's announcing it. John's waving at me because I've told Darren something wrong. But no, she was super impressive. And like you say, we watched her come through the qualifiers there. And obviously she won her first start at York as well. I think her last start before she went over to Ireland, 1-2 on the bounce over there was at York. So she felt like she was a kind of York graduate coming out from there to race elsewhere. Really, really impressive. And a good season for the Gills in general. Which Guy Am I was a winner at York as well.
It won 2 at York, I think. It won the 2-horse race where Richard Walker put added money up himself because both of the horses were bred by himself. that was a good race. Good to see Maggie and Pat. They're always a supporter of harness racing. The juvenile scene anyway. They like their young horses. They bought again at the sale. They went over to Ireland and enjoyed themselves. That's what the sport's all about. It's great. Vicky and John do absolutely fantastic with the young horses. Break them in and they get them there. They've got maybe 8 or 9 2-year-olds at race meetings, and I'm trying to sort them out so they're not in beside. So Vicky can get on them all, and they're not in beside good horses. And
so we've mentioned a couple of times York Sale.
yes.
Just run through that really quickly in terms of, I mean, obviously it was a massive logistical thing to get on, but we got the go ahead for it. From my perspective, one of the best sales I've been to, I think.
York Sale was challenging this year. We got it on. We had even until the sale started, I never thought it was going to happen. The day before it, I got a phone call off Juan from Harrogate Council saying he needs, we're having a sale. I said, yes. How many people's coming? I said, 200. They said, all right. He said, where's the risk assessment? I said, I've sent the risk assessment and the protocols. Yes, I've got them for the racing, but I need a risk assessment for the sale. I'm like, oh. So I go and phone Robert Millichap. Robert, I'm desperate for a risk assessment for this sale. He said, I can do it, but I can't get to a computer to 5 o'clock at night. This was on Friday afternoon. So I goes and phones Juan. I says, I can't get it to 5 o'clock. He says, it's okay, I'm coming there, get it sent over and we'll get it. So we done that. And Juan was there in the morning. The police were sitting outside most of the day. And Juan was just constantly, he was on the phone and said, just keep on announcing. And obviously there were more than 200 there. So
just slightly.
So, and people wanted it videoed, so Frank had videoed it, and I told him take something, and obviously we wanted the horses, but he tried to zoom in something where he couldn't see a lot of crowd, because it didn't look good on the eye where everybody was coming in, but we got it over, and it was nearly £300,000 worth of horses sold.
Yeah,
fantastic amount, fantastic, and there are about just over 14,000 to be raced for next year. This was one of your John's wee babies, the graduate series, putting the money back in. So we sat in one of the qualifying days when it was pouring the rain. I think we sat, me, John, and Mick in between racing, and we drew it up again. John sent it all over, and we tweaked things. Then we got it. So they got a 2.5% sellers and buyer commission, and what is going to be racing for next year is fantastic. It can only grow. During the sale, I even said to, I went over and Hamish had bought one. I said, "Are you buying again, Hamish?" He says, "I seen the amount of money they were going for, and I had to get one to get in for that race next year."
That was the logic. That was the logic behind it, and you could see that was that the trade was so strong at that sale. It was incredible. And you think about the year that we've had, the horses were selling for really good money, and knowing that money was coming back into racing next year. I know you are under time pressure to get to work, so the only thing I need to run past you really quickly is a couple of the features. Obviously, you've touched upon. I don't know, you're getting a phone call coming through now.
You what?
We've touched upon. This is going to make for great viewing for everybody that's watching it. I'm not even drunk in this one either. It's too early for that. Touched upon, obviously, the graduate series. That'll start next year. The Stagby Mares final, that will be returning to York next year as well. We did have the Stagby.
Yes, that's good.
York has kind of become the home of the Stagby Mares final, so that's where it'll be staying. Anything else that you want to tell us about York for 2021 before we sign off on this or not?
York next year, we've got the graduates. We've got the Sire Stakes again for another 2 years. We're going to get the 3-year-old championship back. The Irish IHRA want four heats of their series at York. So it's trying to get the dates. We were at a dates meeting a couple of days ago and it was horrendous. Try to work things out. So I'll send stuff over to John and we'll get dates working.
Yeah.
And we'll have the Daniel well in. We'll try and get as much as we can get going, and as little space of time. Nobody knows what's going to happen next year, if the grass racing is going to be on or that. Hopefully it is, because it takes a little bit pressure off. Because there is horses out there what are good horses, but they're better on the grass.
It just doesn't suit them. That's the problem.
Yes,
you know.
Yes, because it's hard racing every week at York, Prince and Corbywood and Amon Valley is hard. It's very hard. Some horses, you get different results on the grass.
Yeah, definitely. Right, well, on that note, Craig, I will let you go, because I can see you're itching to get out into your gritter and sing your Christmas songs. So thank you very much.
I've not even had my dinner yet, so I need to get my boss to make it.
Well, thank you very much for doing this. I was about to say, we've really lost you. Thank you very much. Thank you for talking through this. Maybe do another one in the new year to talk about the 2021 season, but I'll let you go. Ladies and gents, tune in next week. Charles Ingalls Jr., Chico, is joining me for the Corbywood review. And on this note, everybody enjoy your weekends. Goodbye.